You wake before the sun not out of discipline but out of necessity. In early medieval England, around the year 900, hesitation carries consequences. The small house around you is dark, cold, and damp. Smoke from last night's fire still hangs beneath the thatched roof, stinging your eyes and coating the air with the smell of ash. The floor beneath your feet is hardened earth packed down by years of bare feet, spilled grain, and the slow wear of daily survival. Somewhere in the shadows, a pig shifts in its corner. Chickens rustle quietly. Their presence matters more than comfort. Their warmth and eggs may mean the difference between endurance and hunger. This single room contains everything: your family, your animals, your tools, and your entire future. Privacy does not exist here. Silence rarely does either. Outside, the wider world offers little kindness. This is early medieval England, and survival here begins with a simple truth. Your place in society is decided long before you ever take your first breath. In this world, identity is not something you discover. It is something you inherit. Early medieval English society is rigidly layered, built upon obligations that rarely change from generation to generation. Power flows downward through kings, lords, and clergy, while labor flows upward from the people who work the land. Nearly 8 or 9 out of every 10 people belong to the peasant class. Among them, many are bound to the land as serfs, men and women whose lives are tied not to a single master, but to the estate itself. A serf is not technically a slave, yet the difference is small in practice. You cannot leave the land without permission. You cannot freely sell your labor. If you attempt to escape, you may be hunted down and returned. Records kept by estates and monasteries ensure that obligations pass from father to child. From the outside, the system appears orderly. The Lord owns the land. The church claims authority over the soul. In exchange for labor and loyalty, protection is promised. But protection comes with heavy conditions. Several days each week must be spent working the Lord's fields. Additional labor is demanded during planting and harvest seasons. Rent is paid not with coins, but with grain animals and portions of your own harvest. Miss these duties and punishment follows quickly. There are no courts of appeal, no contracts to renegotiate, and no safety nets waiting if things go wrong. Once your place in society is fixed, the demands on your body begin immediately. Work in early medieval England starts before sunrise, when the cold air still clings to the ground and yesterday's labor has not yet left your muscles. Life follows the rhythm of agriculture rather than weeks or months. The calendar is measured by tasks: plowing in spring, sowing seeds, weeding, harvesting in late summer, threshing grain, and preparing the soil again before winter. The tools available are simple and unforgiving. Wooden plows, reinforced with iron tips, scrape through stubborn soil. Sickles dull quickly and must be sharpened constantly. Most of the work depends not on animals or machines, but on human strength. Weather offers no excuse to stop. Rain soaks clothing and chills the body. Heat drains energy. Cold splits the skin of hands already hardened by labor. Even winter brings no true rest. Fences must be repaired, animals fed, firewood gathered, and tools maintained for the coming season. Archaeological evidence confirms what written records rarely describe. Skeletons from this period show worn joints, compressed spines, healed fractures, and signs of long-term malnutrition. These are not the remains of warriors or heroes. They are the remains of farmers whose lives were shaped by labor that began in childhood and continued without pause until death. All this labor serves one fragile goal: producing enough food to survive the year. Yet survival through food is never guaranteed. The typical diet of a peasant household is painfully narrow. Bread forms the foundation of nearly every meal: dense, dark loaves made from barley or rye rather than wheat. The flavor is sour and heavy, sometimes bitter depending on the quality of the grain harvest. Alongside bread comes thin porridge boiled slowly in iron pots over open hearths. If the household garden produces enough vegetables, supplement the meal peas, beans, onions, cabbage, and occasionally herbs gathered from nearby fields. Meat is rare, not because animals are absent, but because hunting is restricted. Forests and game belong to the nobility. Killing deer or wild boar without permission is considered a serious crime. Even collecting fallen wood from these lands can result in punishment. For most peasants, meat appears only during feast days or in desperate moments when hunger outweighs fear of punishment. In good years, people eat enough to keep working. In bad years, a single failed harvest can bring famine. 2 poor harvests in succession can empty entire villages. Hunger, even when not deadly, becomes a constant companion. Even when food is available, another danger waits in something every person must consume: daily: water. In early medieval England, clean water is more a hope than a guarantee. Streams, rivers, and shallow wells provide the main sources, but these waters serve many purposes at once. People drink from them, wash clothes in them, and dispose of waste nearby. Animals drink there too, leaving behind manure that seeps slowly into the same supply. No one understands bacteria or microscopic contamination. When illness follows drinking water, it appears random and mysterious. Diseases spread quickly through villages. Dysentery brings violent dehydration. Typhoid fevers linger for weeks. Children are especially vulnerable. Their smaller bodies cannot endure the loss of fluids. Adults sometimes survive long enough to unknowingly pass the illness to others within the crowded household. Even monasteries, often cleaner than most settlements, experience outbreaks. Monks record sudden waves of sickness passing through their communities, leaving behind empty beds and hurried burials. There are no antibiotics, no vaccines, and no understanding of contagion. Treatments consist of herbal remedies, prayer, and rest. Sometimes people recover, often they do not. Every sip of water becomes a silent gamble with survival. When the day's labor ends and a peasant finally returns home, the shelter waiting inside offers only partial safety. Most houses in early medieval England are built quickly from local materials. Wooden frames are packed with wattle and daub woven branches coated in mud and straw. Roofs are thatched with reeds or dry grass. The structures stand close together, forming tight clusters of dwellings along narrow village paths. Inside, there is usually only one room. A central hearth provides warmth and a place for cooking, but there is rarely a chimney. Smoke escapes slowly through gaps in the roof or doorways, filling the room with lingering fumes that irritate lungs and eyes. During the winter, animals often sleep inside with the family. Their body heat helps people survive freezing nights. But the arrangement also fills the air with waste insects and parasites. Fleas and lice thrive in bedding made from straw. Rats move freely through walls and grain stores. Overcrowding spreads illness rapidly among family members. The home protects against rain and wind, yet it also becomes an environment where disease spreads easily and quietly, weakens already exhausted bodies. Survival does not mean comfort. It simply means making it through another night. Looking at these conditions, one question becomes unavoidable. How long could anyone survive in such a world? Modern estimates often suggest an average life expectancy of around 30 to 35 years in early medieval England. At first glance, the number seems shockingly low. Yet it hides an important truth. The greatest danger comes early in life. Roughly 1 out of every 3 children dies before reaching the age of 5. Many never survive infancy. Infections spread quickly among young children whose bodies are weakened by poor nutrition and contaminated water. Fevers, respiratory illnesses, and childhood diseases move rapidly through crowded households. For parents, loss becomes tragically familiar. Burials of infants and toddlers appear frequently in archaeological cemeteries from this period. However, if a person survives childhood, their chances improve. Some adults live into their 40s, 50s, or even longer. Still, death remains close at every stage of life. A simple infection from a wound can turn fatal. A harsh winter may bring starvation. A fall in the fields or a failed harvest can shorten a life abruptly. In this world, death is not rare or dramatic. It is simply part of daily existence.